Radio Odin presents Dragon Slayer, Azeviche. The Chronicles of Oluf, Chapter 16, Part 1, by Silvio Spotti.
In 20 years, only names and faces had changed at the Quasi-Finger training camps. The methods and misfortunes that occurred in this place remained the same. What prospects lay ahead when adhering to unchanging tactics against an ever-evolving adversary? This would not be the first time, Kevin thought as he stepped into the office of the general director of the camps. He didn't miss those golden spines pointing at his face, maps of a land that no longer existed, round glasses on top of useless paperwork, a barely extinguished cigar still smoking in the ashtray. Fatigue washed over him. How long it had been since he had passed Gia's mirror and found Jet, he couldn't say, and the hands of the noisy antique clock didn't help at all. His eyes finally succumbed, closing at the sound of fat raindrops drumming rhythmically against the window. His mind always tormented him every time he fell asleep with the recurring dream of Paisley falling over the cliff, but this time it was different. Once again, Kevin found himself on top of that mountain, an army of elves behind him, almost feeling his fingers around the hilt of the silver sword, the energy of the heat of battle coursing through his body, his spurs hitting Marengo, and the wind running through his hair. In a realm of fears and sensations he'd never encountered again, Kevin found himself bereft of even the comforting weight of the silver sword's hilt in his grasp. In his dream, he stood in the heart of a battlefield, hand reaching for the scabbard only to discover the faithful sword's absence. Njar Sten approached, wielding a black-bladed longsword. He heard the Draconite's deliberate, gravel-crushing footsteps drawing nearer, and even caught the metallic tang of freshly spilled blood in the air. Amidst this altered reality, Kevin pondered the unsettling differences, acutely aware of the real hatred gleaming in the Draconite's purple eyes. His desperate thoughts raced. Where had his sword vanished to on this chaotic battlefield? Without it, Kevin stood exposed, vulnerable to the encircling Draconites advancing with spears at Njar Sten's command. "This isn't how it's happening," he tried to protest, but his voice failed him. Where was Halvhar, poised to hurl the silver sword to his aid? And where was the majestic Marengo? As Draconites drew nearer, their bodies contorted in grotesque ways. Njar Sten's face twisted, mirroring the transformation all around him, and suddenly turned into a writhing mass of black serpents. Kevin kicked away one or two, but they were too many, converging into hundreds. And only Njal stood out, for the black serpent into which he had transformed bore a white spot on its face, eerily reminiscent of the Lord Commander's Draconite hair color. Kevin found himself unable to move his legs, anchored to the ground. His hands reached desperately for his knees in a futile attempt to dislodge them from their immobilized state, bound by a profound impotence. The serpents began to coil around his tall boots, and Kevin's eyes darted from one to another. They multiplied and slithered up his legs, thousands of them enveloping him up to the waist, poised to do the unthinkable, submerging him in a sea of reptiles. The one that stood out from the rest, Njar Sten, crawled among the others, and once more, the macabre transformation began to take hold. The denying serpent parted its jaws with a hiss, revealing its lethal fangs. Snakes on the ground moved toward Njal's mortal head, merging into a single, grotesque form, undergoing an aberrant metamorphosis. The creature's color shifted, and small limbs sprouted from the sides of this large body, constricting Kevin further, his arms trapped within a deadly embrace. As the serpent grew redder and redder, its head expanded. Strange, bony protuberances emerged from the serpent's back, starting as subtle bumps, then growing and twisting like gnarled branches on an ancient tree. These skeletal appendages gradually extended, gradually developing a thin membrane between them, translucent like the finest parchment, yet pulsating with a fiery crimson hue. Slowly, the membrane stretched and strengthened, taking shape and substance until it resembled a pair of magnificent wings, delicate and yet sturdy, like the petal of a dark, enchanted flower. With each passing moment, These ethereal wings unfurled further, their intricate patterns and subtle veins becoming increasingly pronounced. They cast eerie shadows against the blood-red dragon's already fearsome form, turning it into an otherworldly creature as Kevin remained ensnared in its vice-like grip. Those unmistakable purple eyes could only belong to his draconite antagonist, Njal Sten. To Kevin's terror, the dragon opened its jaws towards his head with the intention of swallowing him whole.
Thank you for listening to the Chronicles of Oluf. Please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell for notifications.